Hey guys, how you doing? Uncle Steph here. So, job security, does it even exist in 2025 is the question that's come up. We're starting to see the economy, at least in North America, starting to and yeah, so is there real job security? Does that even exist anymore? Yes and no. Yes and no. What it comes down to, I'll get to the bottom line, then I'll give you the long story. So the bottom line is that if you are very valuable, if you are highly skilled at what it is that you do, you make yourself insanely useful to people around you, then you will have plenty of job security. That's point number one. Point number two, how do you become insanely useful? You skill up on a regular basis. That's number two. So if you're in the tech space, a lot of people watching my videos are in the tech space, you have to be up to date with the latest technology. Now, I know a lot of people are younger, so they haven't seen the natural evolution of industry and business. I've been doing the tech stuff since the 90s, so I've seen many changes over time where old technologies are replaced by the new. So today, the new technology, of course, is AI. So if you are a developer, regardless of the type of development that you do, if you are a developer, you should learn how AI can be integrated into your own workflows, and perhaps even more importantly, how you can use AI to create new use cases, new opportunities for work, for jobs, for freelance, for business. So the next thing you can do, I don't know if it's point number 2 or 3, I forget now. So the next thing you can do is try to make yourself very useful to people around you. Make an effort to say to yourself, okay, how can I make people, their lives easier? What can I do to make my coworkers' lives easier? What can I do to advance the needs of the business? You have to have this spirit of giving, if you will, and this will have a huge positive impact in terms of how people perceive you. If you are the useful person, you will be the last person that companies will let go. So some of you might be saying to yourselves, how can these evil employers fire people? Well, sometimes they have to do it because if they don't, everybody gets fired. Company goes bankrupt. You see, when industry or an economy is expanding, people start hiring like crazy. We saw during the pandemic, there was a lot of demand for tech workers, so people started hiring, well, companies started hiring like crazy. And when you have these booms, you start having inefficiencies, shall we say, that will creep into the system. Basically, they hire people that are not actually the best people to hire. They're not super qualified. They're not very capable. And so when the mania of a growing business or a growing economy starts to simmer down, starts to calm down, and maybe go into reverse, then the companies who are not making money hand over fist, they start looking at, okay, we have to cull some of the dead wood in the business, some of the people who are not exactly helping us too much. This is normal, and this is healthy. This is how nature works, by the way. Nature works in that way. It is the natural way of the universe, and if you try to fight nature, you're going to get burnt every time. So never try to fight nature. So let's put it into real world terms. Let's say you have a business, and I'm just going to use round numbers to make life easy. You have 100 employees and you generate $10 million a year, and the profit comes down to $1 million. Right? You make $1 million, you have 100 employees. Then, times are good, you hired a bunch of people. Then, as inevitable, you got a business cycle, just like you got seasons in nature. You got summer and spring and summer and fall and winter and then spring again. So the fall of the business cycle starts hitting your particular company of 100 people that makes $10 million a year, and then you start getting hit. All of a sudden you're making 9 million, then 8 million, then 7 million, right? So the sales start dropping. A lot of times they drop much harder than that. Like, I was just at your Uncle Steph is an investor in startups, amongst other things. So I invested in, I got my hands in 2 or 3 startups now. It's either 2 or 3. I have to go look. I think it's 2. Yeah, it's down to 2. Anyway, so one of the startups, I was just at a shareholder meeting, and their sales went down not 1 million, not 5 million, not even 20 million. Their sales went down $50 million, or $49 million, I think, to be precise, in 1 year. Big drop. They burnt through, well, no, they burnt, excuse me, cut that. Their sales went down much more than that, but they burnt through $50 million of cash. And their cash hoard was not super huge. Although you figure if you could burn through 50 million, you got a decent amount of cash on hand, right? But nonetheless, so this company, if they couldn't burn through another $50 million of cash, it was done. It's like if they did it again, if they were on the same trajectory this following year, there would be no business. So they had to start firing and laying off people like crazy, and they felt really bad about it. I'm in the I'm in the shareholder meeting with the CEO and the VPs and all the top brass, and they feel terrible. But if they don't start cutting, the whole thing goes boo. That's the nature of the tech biz. The tech biz is extremely volatile. Big growth, big crashes, big growth, big crashes. So if you go work for a tech company, especially a young one, where you can make a lot of money as an early employee, as the early Microsoft people made, the early Apple people, the early Facebook people, pick a company, any early tech company employees, they made a fortune. But on the downside, you got the downside, right? You got that volatility you got to contend with. So what does that mean? That means that job security actually is really, when you boil it down, comes down to the demand characteristics of the market at that time. Meaning, if there's a lot of demand for people, if the business is growing, you have job security. If the business is not growing or the economy goes down then you're not going to have too much job security, right? So the whole thing in the 50s and 60s and tailing off into the beginning of 70s perhaps, you had lifelong job security. You work for a company, you had a job for life. But that changed. That changed into the 70s and the 80s. What happened? Well, the economy started shifting. You see, in North America specifically, during the 50s and 60s, it was a boom time because it was just after the Second World War. The whole European economy was like kaput. They blew each other up. And then Asia was still growing. China was like still, communist backwards. Japan had just got blown up as well. So basically it was the U.S. was the only manufacturing power base in the world. So of course, back then, the scarcity was in employment. That's why they were bringing in so many immigrants in, because they needed the workers. And so there was a lack of workers, and there was plenty of jobs because the whole economy, the infrastructure was being built. It was growth. So you, of course, hired people for life, not because you were a nice company, it's because you had tremendous demand, and when you found somebody who was competent, you wanted to keep them. Even someone who was mildly competent, you wanted to keep them because the demand for employees were so high. Employees were scarce. I was talking to my father about that when he was in high school. They were recruiting him hard, in different jobs, in totally different fields. Come on. They needed this, they just needed somebody who was fairly consistent and had half a brain. And you got a golden ride into a career and a pension and so forth. But again, it was because of the situation at the time in the economy, right? You had a growing economy. You had World War that had just finished, wiped out all the other industrialized economies around the world for the most part. So It was an incredible situation, incredible opportunity. It was like joining Facebook, in the first 5 years. Anyhow, so the demand characteristic, the demand circumstances, the demand for employees is what allows for job security, nothing else. So today, we don't have that situation. I think it's going to come back again, by the way. I think in 2025, we'll probably go through a transitional stage, and then we're going to start roaring up again with AI driving it. Anyhow, so what you got to do is, number one, you got to up your skills. Number two, you got to make yourself super useful at the place of work. You got to be somebody who can be counted on. You got to be the person they know that provides value. When X started firing a bunch of people, it's because we were firing all the people who we saw in the videos. They would put out these videos where they would basically do hardly anything all day. I'm not surprised they got fired. And then you're seeing they're starting to do it at the government level. They're starting to do it. Facebook is doing it. And they announced, Facebook, I think they fired 5% of their workforce, maybe 10%, but they're firing the bottom 10%. It's not uncommon. They're cleaning house, and they're getting ready for the next wave, but they're also hiring new people. If you follow my advice, you upskill, you make yourself useful, and another thing is you become somebody that gets along with other people as well. It's big, especially in corporate environment. Interpersonal skills are huge. You'll have job security because of that, right? Not because of some structural issue, because you just become so valuable, they won't want to get rid of you. When I was at that shareholder meeting where they had to lay off so many people, one of the things, besides the CEOs and the VPs, besides them feeling really bad about having to lay off people, they were also very scared because they were losing their top talent. They couldn't afford them. Or the top talent didn't want to stick around because they didn't want to be involved in a sinking ship. So employers don't want to lose their top talent. So job security comes from being top talent. So become top talent. Of course, the ultimate job security is not needing a job. And that comes down to financial discipline, which comes down to emotional discipline. That means no credit card debt. That means living below your means. That means having at least 6 months, I say 3 to 6 months of FU money, and start building your savings as quickly as possible. You want to hit that key 100,000, some people might say $200,000 in the market, in broadly diversified investments, S&P 500, etc., ETFs, that kind of thing. Why? Because then it starts to grow on its own, and you just let it sit in autopilot, and it will start multiplying for you. I've discussed this in other videos. So the ultimate diversity, of course, is just being financially independent, and you can do that just by, as I said, live below your means, make sure you have no debt, with the exception of maybe a house, but have a minor debt. And then just keep saving and investing, having that emergency money so you don't have to worry about things. That gives you tremendous job security because you don't need a job. Freelance is another option as well, because when you freelance, if you set it up properly, as I teach and discuss, you have an array of clients, 5 to 10 or more. And this way, if you lose a client or two, it's not a big deal because you have many other clients. You always want to be prospecting for new clients as a freelancer. So you have many clients, keep growing your client base, keep adding to it. And next thing you know, you have so much work, you won't know what to do with it. You can organize that, use it for negotiating purposes, use it to up your rates. You can start partnering with partners, if you will, to take care of some of the excess work. So yes, freelancing is another way to give yourself job security by, as I said, having many clients, or maybe being a contractor where you have several contracts running. This is a great way for job security. It's a diversification play. There's an old fairy tale, don't keep your eggs in one basket. I don't know if you call it a fairy tale, whatever, expression. I don't know what it is. You know what I'm talking about. An old wise person's tale, they say, don't carry all your eggs in one basket. This is basically a rule of diversification. So it's not just in terms of investment, but you can think about it in terms of income as well. freelancing is the ultimate diversification because you can diversify your income streams with many different clients. So I do that with businesses. I have some business here, make me a little here. I got some business make me a little there, some business make me a little there. I also have my investments for retirement. I don't have to work anymore for a long time now. And so this gives me the ultimate job security. I still work because why not? Yeah, I did 10 years off and it gets boring, let me tell you. So it's better to figure out what you like to do and make yourself super valuable in that niche that you really like. So you're making really good money doing something you love, like this. I enjoy helping people, consulting with people, with clients. I provide software. I have software systems people use. This is all very rewarding to me. I enjoy it. I like shooting video. So is there job security? There is, but not in a traditional sense. You have to up your skills, diversify your income streams if you can, have lots of savings, no debt, then you're secure about your job. But if you're thinking about the 1950s and 1960s styles job security, that it still exists a little bit here and there, but is largely going away because of the dynamics of the economy. So you can find job security by just jumping into high growth areas or big demand. That's where you want to go. As I did in the 1990s, when the web stuff started hitting the ground, I jumped into the web stuff, not the old school programming, and I had unlimited work, and it's carried me forward for years and years and years and years and years and years. The web is still big. Traditional development still has a lot of opportunity there. But I think the big growth is going to be in AI integration into workflows, AI integration into development workflows, into business process workflows. That will give you a ton of job security for this foreseeable future, besides everything else I talked about. All right, I'm Uncle Steph. I teach people, I mentor people in the ways of coding and software development, entrepreneurship, specifically tech entrepreneurship, although I've done different types of businesses. And I'm also getting into teaching people how to shoot marketing videos and social media. I've done, if you watch this channel, I've done big brand deals with a bunch of big players. So that's coming out pretty soon too. Anyhow, if you have any questions or about anything I discussed in this video, link it below. If you like my hat, give me a thumbs up.